Good evening and welcome to TV47 Prime. Now tonight, from education reforms and matters governance to the stories shaping lives across the country, we bring you the latest developments making headlines. My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign interpreter is Catherine Simaloy. Let's get started. The Ministry of Education has announced plans to review and rationalize the academic calendar beginning next year, citing concerns that the current schedule may be contributing to learner fatigue. The announcement comes at a time when schools across the country are grappling with a wave of unrest that has affected more than 200 institutions. Andrine Kilemi reports.
The government is considering changes to the school calendar as part of broader efforts to improve the learning environment and ease pressure on learners.
Starting next academic year, the ministry shall rationalize the school calendar to ensure that the terms are balanced and that the second term is not as long as it's been.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba made the announcement on Wednesday amid growing unrest in schools across the country, which has affected more than 200 learning institutions.
Less than 2% of the country's senior schools have been affected by this unrest, meaning that most of our schools, around 98%, remain stable and continue with their normal operations.
Even so, the ministry says it is exploring long-term measures aimed at improving the learning environment and reducing pressure on learners. Under the current academic calendar, learners spend about 12 weeks in school during the first term, followed by a 3 to 4 week break. The second term, typically the longest, runs for 14 weeks, while the third term lasts at least 10 weeks. As the Ministry of Education considers the proposed adjustments, it has maintained that the midterm break will proceed as scheduled from June 24 to June 28.
Do not use what is happening as an opportunity to send students home where there is no situation or there is no unrest or there is no indication or there is no tension.
The review comes as authorities seek lasting solutions to the waves of unrest witnessed in schools, with hopes that a more balanced academic calendar could help ease pressure on learners and improve the overall school environment. Andrine Kilemi, TV47.
Thank you, Andrine Kilemi, for that story. Now, more than 200 senior secondary schools have experienced some form of unrest in recent weeks, from strikes and dormitory fires to destruction of property. The government has responded with a raft of measures, including a review of the school calendar and the formation of a task force to investigate the root causes. But is that enough? And what will it take to ensure our children are safe, settled and learning? Joining me now is Boaz Waruku, Policy and Strategy Advisor at Elimu Bora Working Group, one of Kenya's leading education advocacy organization. Mr. Waruku.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us.
Great.
Now, the CS says the situation in school is largely under control, with 98% of schools operating normally. From your perspective on the ground and as a stakeholder, what is the mood like in our schools right now?
Thank you very much. First, it is good to appreciate that the CS has actually done a great job by coming out to openly articulate a few issues. He's been hiding, so to say. And now that he has come out, I think he should now face the facts. He should also not engage on a panic mode, because that seems to be the issue currently that is being witnessed. Because some of the issues he's raising, I think, are really not tackling the core facts, the causative issues to this unrest that we are witnessing. For instance, the trigger was the Utumishi Academy fire. And if you trace the trigger, then you realize those were just symptoms of underlying factors. And some of these are the elements of how the school constructions are, those safety standards and protocols which are not adhered to, the congestion that the children themselves there were facing, and probably some lack of listening ear from the administration, from the school there. And I think we are also connecting this to the fact that it appears our officers from the Ministry of Education who have been visiting schools seem not to have been visiting and inspecting this infrastructure as well. So ideally, I think for us, we nailed it and said the policy enforcement is very weak. And that is where we wanted to start from. In fact, Elimu Bora called out, if the CS was listening, he should have resigned when we lost those 16 children. And the PS has now been tossed aside. A new person brought on board, but even before then they could settle and agree. Already you're seeing that is already issuing what he thinks should be done.
Quick one. Will changing the calendar alone be enough to address the growing cases of school unrest?
The calendar was changed barely 6 years ago. This is the time that all schools, we know that even the calendars, or after the corona period, the reorganization of the calendar, even creating the mandatory midterm breaks, because previously those never used to be there. So the mandatory midterm breaks and the fact that you have a clear kind of a calendar right from January to the end, thinking that that is the problem, I think could be looking for scapegoats. I would rather...
So according to you, what do you think is the problem, and what's the root cause of the unrest?
I think the problems which have been identified very clearly is, one, there are congestions in schools. There are congestions in schools. And because of the congestions, even those in the boarding facilities, you realize now they are rammed in there, many in number. We have to address that very, very urgently. Two, with that congestion, then even the conditions within the schools are deteriorating. You can imagine even where they are getting their meals. There are some schools that have converted even some classes into dormitories, and then now congesting even more of these learners into the remaining classroom. Those are issues which should be addressed. There are also the aspect of the teachers really getting overwhelmed, because I'll put it to you, this grade 10 curriculum is not an easy thing. The delivery of that curriculum with the kind of subjects or the learning areas as they are put, it's not an easy thing. And this is the first time that it's beginning. And to many schools, because we have been doing some of these surveys, we did actually survey to check the level of preparedness by those schools to receive the grade 10. And we realized that even some of the infrastructure, which was a big problem, some of the infrastructure not necessarily ready for them. The teachers themselves, because some of the learning areas are somewhat new. Because you've seen in the STEM pathway, you've seen in the art and sports, because people think art and sports, for example, is just about running and playing soccer. It's not.
So ideally, what I'm gathering from you is that the ministry should be prioritizing infrastructure and students' welfare as opposed to changing the school calendar.
They should be doing that. But also, I'd have expected that the CS remains restrained and does not just state this idea of forming another task force, because many task forces have been formed, for instance. There are many recommendations which are there, which they just need to clean and put together and implement. And also, this is, if you want to have further consultations, I think start with the technocrats at the ministry. You've just got a new PS. As a Limobora, we are doing a memorandum, a comprehensive one, to tell them where they need to start from. In fact, for us, because we feel that the CS should have gone with the PS so that we have two new people that you can sit down with and tell them what exactly they need to address.
Have you as a stakeholder, the parents and teachers, have you been consulted towards this?
Up to now, no consultation has been, we have not even received any kind of communication in terms of this. And I think the first things first, the parents and who are holding their children at home. It is not easy to have children at home when others are in school. Two, the parents who have lost their loved ones, they're also struggling to get what are the issues really. What were the causes? And others are going to school. So many things are happening. And indeed, you see the CS is on a panic mode. He should be the one calming the public, calming the parents, calming the learners. So ideally from now henceforth, probably he just needs to have that quick consultation with the technocrats, but also to rely on sound advice, because some of the stakeholders here really give sound advice. At times they just do not want to follow the line.
Yes, if implemented, will the review affect the number of learning days in a school calendar?
It should not.
Yes.
It should not, because they actually, with the calendar that CBC is carrying on board, it is a heavy workload. It is heavy workload, and it is intense. It requires the learner to learn the theory, to get to the practical, to practice, that kind of a thing, and continuously being checked by the teacher to ensure that the learning is taking place. It is not the same way as it used to be. So this requires a little bit of more rigor and more coordination, but also in an environment where there's some openness, and that even when the learners express themselves, I think we should also not be using the draconian tactics of thinking that whenever they express themselves, they're just up to some mischief. No, not necessarily. There are certain things that they could be raising, which you can listen to it. And the school administration infrastructure should be able to help us in dealing with that.
Just a quick follow-up on that. What role should the parents play in addressing the causes of school unrest during holiday periods?
Definitely the children are with them, and they are telling them they must explore what are the costs involved. Because, for instance, right now, even taking the child back home is an extra cost. There are certain schools that have even said now they don't want those children back without clearing fees. These are additional things. In other words, the environment for negotiation is being spoiled by these unrests. So I think the parents need to candidly discuss with their children. Also, because peer pressure has also been seen as part of the causes of this, they should be able to learn from their parents that when you go to learn as a student, I think focus and know that you're there as an individual, do the right thing, don't easily get influenced. And of course, there are drugs issues, which have also been. Nowadays, I think the society is so guilty because the drugs that are surrounding most of our learning institutions are so much, and they come in different style. The Interior Ministry probably should be coordinating more closely with the Ministry of Education to stamp out the alcohol, the drug issues, and all that. And maybe before you move on, and perhaps this should be our final question because we are out of time. A multi-stakeholder team has been formed to look into the root causes of student unrest. What would you want to see on that team agenda and to make it very effective? Even before that team is formed, can the technocrats within the ministry do their job? Because the reports they have there are more than adequate to inform what actions need to be taken. Once that is done, because they could come back and say, oh, this thing requires rapid infrastructure development, because that is one of the things which must be focused on. It would require rapid teacher recruitment and deployment at the senior school level, because we've been focusing on the junior school for the teacher recruitment. Even there, we have not really nailed it because the interns are still struggling. They have not been converted as well. So there are certain things which they may, after interrogating all those recommendations, probably that's when they need to have this consultation in a very open way, where if you go there and give your opinion, you're not seeing as somebody who is against what the government wants to implement. Because right now, as a Limobora, we want what is right for these children. Nothing else.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oroko. Unfortunately, because in the interest of time, we have to cut the interview. We are stressed for time. Thank you so much for your insights. And as discussion on the proposed changes continue, maybe we'll be watching to see whether they can help create a more stable learning environment in our schools. Thank you so much for your time and your insights as well.
Thank you very much.
Now, moving on to some other stories, the opposition coalition led by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has presented what it termed a people's budget, which it said will reduce borrowing, increase spending on education and healthcare, lower the cost of living, and create employment opportunities for young people. Addressing the media, Musyoka said the coalition's proposal offered a different approach to managing the economy from the government's 4.82 trillion budget, urging its MPs to reject the 2026 finance bill once presented in the House.
Opposition leaders have strongly criticized the government's fiscal plan, terming it unsustainable and warning that it could deepen Kenya's debt burden. The leaders now say the proposed expenditure of 4.82 trillion against an expected revenue of 3.6 trillion leaves a projected deficit of about 1.1 trillion shillings, which they argue is unreasonable and physically risky. The leaders, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, say the rising debt burden continues to limit government spending on critical sectors.
This is the largest spending plan in the history of the Republic of Kenya. Gross expenditure at 4.82 trillion shillings. Yet total revenue, including taxes and all other inflows, stands at only 3.63 trillion shillings. The gap between what this regime spends and what it collects is a whopping 1.11 trillion shillings, a fiscal deficit of 5.3% of our entire GDP.
The opposition also linked recent cases of students' unrest and schools fires to broader challenges in the education sector, including inadequate infrastructure and lack of dedicated mental health support programs. In the healthcare sector, the leaders proposed increasing allocations from the current 107.7 billion shillings to 242.3 billion shillings and pledged to reinstate programs such as Linda Mama and Edu Afia.
I said SHA will collapse in 6 months. For the last 4 days,
It has collapsed.
the systems are down. That is a sign of collapse. When Rigiji tells you that your wife is expected, please buy some diapers.
It has chosen the bureaucracy of our children for the last 4 years. Now look at what this budget allocates to address it. School mental health programming, effectively zero. There's no dedicated national school mental health line in the budget estimates.
On the Finance Bill 2026, which has attracted sharp criticism from the opposition, the leaders opposed proposals to introduce a 16% VAT on mobile money transaction fees and 25% excise duty on mobile phones. They argued that measures would increase the financial burden on ordinary Kenyans and urged members of parliament to reject the finance bill once it's tabled in the House.
What has been contained in this budget speech is anchored in law and is realistic, it is achievable. Just want to urge you, my good friends in the two houses, please reach out to more of your colleagues.
And in the event that our fellow citizens who are in government will not listen and make these amendments, my recommendation strongly, like that of all right-thinking and positive-thinking Kenyans, is the finance bill then should be rejected in total. Thank you.
The proposals by the united opposition on the 2026 budget insist they are the real game changer in the whole process. On whether they will see the light of the day is a matter of wait and see. Elizabeth Motuko, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Elizabeth Motuko, for that story. Now, Cabinet Secretary for Energy Opiyo Wandayi has assured Kenyans that the government is taking decisive steps to lower energy cost and stabilize supply, measures expected to ease the burden on households and businesses alike.
Speaking after a consultative meeting with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi assured Kenyans that the government has secured petroleum deliveries through July, saying this will shield the country from fuel shortages being experienced in other countries.
Fuel deliveries have already been secured through the end of July this year, ensuring uninterrupted supply and shielding Kenyans from shortages and the disruptions experienced elsewhere.
The government has also pledged a further reduction in diesel prices in the next monthly review. Ondai said this is in recognition of the fact that diesel powers transport, agriculture, manufacturing and wider economy, and that lower diesel prices ultimately translate to lower costs for businesses and greater relief for Kenyan families.
Lower diesel prices ultimately translate into lower costs for businesses and is a greater relief for Kenyan families.
The CS also highlighted that effective June 2026, electricity costs have dropped by 0.2685 Kenyan shillings per kilowatt per hour. He attributed the reduction to decreased fuel energy costs and improved hydropower generation, which could result in lower monthly electricity bills for households.
This reflects our commitment to ensuring that gains within the sector are shared directly with Kenyans.
Ondai further assured manufacturers that initiatives such as the Time of Use Tariff Program, which offers cheap electricity during off-peak hours, will help industries reduce costs and expand operations.
Manufacturing remains a critical driver of jobs, exports and revenue, and we cannot ignore the pressures that rising production costs, cash flow constraints and increasing global competition place on our industries.
According to the government, these measures are expected to result in lower household bills, cheaper transport, more stable prices for goods, and stronger job security. This could provide welcome relief to ordinary Kenyans amid volatility in global energy markets.
The Ministry of Health and the Social Health Authority have sounded an alarm over the worrying trend of patients seeking services being denied drugs and forced to pay out of pocket for crucial medicine. As Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the government says it will curb the fraud through the digitization of SHA services.
Effective Monday next week, health facilities that fail to dispense medicine to patients seeking services will be penalized. This is according to the Social Health Authority.
Coming the 14th of June, if Mercy comes to your facility, she has diarrhea, she's come to reroute her, she has been managed, a doctor has seen her, she has a prescription for ORS, and Waziri Silantoi rerouter does not dispense ORS, I will make a deduction of close to 38% of your claim.
On the 15th, because the system will tell us this patient X, all the other health care services have been provided, but do not get medicine. SHA will not reimburse that component of medicine if the patient has not been given.
The Ministry of Health has also issued a stern warning to facilities found defrauding SHA by submitting claims of drugs that were never dispensed.
Now the patient will receive a text message asking him, have you received medicine? So we're telling Kenyans, if you have not received the medicine, go back to the facility.
For providers who are contracted under PHC, and this is significantly so, our county government facilities, we shall now introduce a surcharge when you do not prescribe and dispense medicine.
The government has raised concerns over the low drug dispensation rate in the country, with Nairobi reporting just 23%.
That's shameful. It means Kenyans are walking in, finding a doctor, finding diagnostics, but walking away without drugs.
On its part, the Council of Governors maintains that all county-owned health facilities are adequately supplied with drugs, saying the problem stems from corruption and selfish health workers.
Most of those facilities have the drugs. It is the politics of the health workers around how these drugs are dispensed. Sometimes that patient goes out with a prescription to go buy your drugs that somehow left the hospital. Sometimes our doctors are very specific in what they prescribe.
The government now says digitization is the only solution to the perennial issue of corruption affecting Kenya's health sector. In that regard, the Social Health Authority has launched a biometric registration exercise for dependents aged 7 to 17, alongside the signing of the Public Officers Medical Scheme Fund tariff implementation milestone at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The system is expected to ensure timely, safe and quality care for patients while also safeguarding the integrity of the claims process. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Our very own Elizabeth Atieno with that story. Investigations have been launched by detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI in Mwingi, Kitui County after 4 bodies were exhumed from a single grave in the area, raising fear among residents. Locals are now calling on leaders and security agencies to assure them of their safety as investigations continue.
Residents of Mwingi in Kitui County have expressed growing concern following a series of disturbing security incidents in the town and surrounding areas. Fear intensified after 4 male bodies were exhumed from shallow graves discovered near Mwingi town. The Mwingi Central Sub-County Police Commander Anthony Maina said the 4 bodies had been buried naked with their hands and legs folded. Preliminary investigations indicate that the bodies may have been preserved in some manner as they did not emit the strong odor normally associated with bodies at a similar stage of decomposition.
Uliza serikali ya Mwingi iingililie katikati ijue huenda ni watu wetu ama ni watu wanauliwa mahali kwingine na alafu wanakuja kutupwa Mwingi.
The discovery comes barely a month after 3 other bodies were recovered in nearby locations. 1 body was found at River Tia, while 2 others were discovered days later.
Tiko makuu sana kuona kana kwamba mili ya watu wameuawa na wakatupa papa hapa tu karibu na hapa town yetu hii, na ni jambo la kusikitisha sana.
Among the victims was a woman who had been beheaded and left naked. Residents now suspect that some of the victims may have been killed elsewhere before their bodies were dumped in Mwingi.
Tumefanya uchunguzi, hakuna watu wetu wa Mwingi constituency wamepotea. Yule ambaye alikuwa amepotea ni mmoja na ni kama amepatikana pande ya Mombasa.
Another 2 bodies were discovered for a female and a male. And up to date, we are yet to know what has really happened. So we are asking the security to be beefed up at Mwingi and very fast investigation so that we may know who are the victims.
They are now calling on security agencies to intensify patrols, strengthen investigations, and work closely with members of the public. Police have urged families with missing relatives to report to the authorities to assist in the identification process as investigations continue. The 4 exhumed bodies are currently being preserved at the Mwingi Level 4 Hospital mortuary, pending further investigations.
The family of Rachel Wandeto has sighed in relief after the Kerugoya magistrate ruled that the deceased body must be released to her next of kin, and in a bitter family standoff over where and how she will be laid to rest. Faith Wangari reports.
The preliminary objection dated 28 May 2026 is dismissed.
Rachel Muthoni Wandeto will be laid to rest after Kerugoya Court cleared the way for her burial months after the death sparked national attention and debate over a burial dispute involving her family.
The applicant's notice of motion dated 25th of May 2026 is allowed. A temporary injunction is hereby issued to the respondent, his agents, servants, or anyone acting under his authority from accessing, collecting, removing or burying the remains of the deceased Rachel Muthoni Wandeto pending determination of the suit.
The dispute centered on the remains of Rachel Muthoni Wandeto, whose body had been held at a funeral home as 2 parties contested a final resting place. On one side was her mother, Sarah Njeri, and on the other, Peter Njaraba, the father of Rachel's 2 children, who claimed the right to arrange her burial. Kerugoya resident magistrate Harrison Kariuki ruled that Njaraba had no legal standing to claim the body. The court found that the 2 were never legally married and Crucially, that no dowry had been paid to Rachel's family, despite the couple having 2 children together.
While the respondent may have cohabited with the deceased and fathered 2 children, paternity alone is not proof of a valid customary marriage.
Following the ruling, the magistrate ordered the funeral home to release Rachel's remains to her mother, who will now oversee the burial arrangements.
Mr. Peter Jaramba was the father of the 2 children that were left behind. That itself is not enough to prove that he has to be released the body. The court went further, and as we had our evidence shows that we have proved that there was no marriage, no customary marriage.
The decision by Residence Magistrate Harrison Karaoke adds to a growing body of court rulings affirming the rights of next of kin in burial disputes, particularly in cases where no formal marriages exist. Faith Wangare, TV47.
We're now taking a short break on TV47 Prime, but I'll be back shortly. See you on the other side.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning. You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimeekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Nikikunyuma.
Oh my God. You left me. Nitumie ni live.
Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? Hi-Fi?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tamulini kero make a beauty product.
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
You won't entertain divas. No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that our hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
At 8:30 p.m. on
Welcome back. You're watching TV47 Prime. Now, a cloud of grief engulfed Riamote village in Bunge, Githunguri, Kiambu County, after a border rider allegedly slit the throats of his wife and child before taking his own life by hanging himself. Mike Kialo with more.
It was a moment of deep sorrow for residents of Bunge in Githunguri, Kiambu County, following a tragic incident involving 26-year-old border rider Kenneth Kamau, which is believed to have stemmed from a family dispute.
Mimi niliamka kama venye naamkanga asubuhi kutayarisha mtoto aende shule. Hasa after nimetoka nje kufika hapa, sasa nikamuona. Hata baadaye after nani alitoka foro ndio akashangaa kwa nini Irene amepiga duru hivyo na Susan hajatoka nje. Ndio akaenda akafungua huko akahakisha stima. Ndio sasa akaona wamelala hapo kwa kitanda.
Evidence recovered at the scene, including a 3-page handwritten note investigators say may point to prolonged emotional and mental distress.
Hili mambo imenistua sana. Juu huyu kijana tulikuwa tunaongea na yeye kila saa, kila dakika, na mimi sikuwa naona kama kuna shida. Tu nilikuwa naona kama mambo yake inaendelea sawa sawa.
The tragedy culminated into destruction of a young family in a single night after the man allegedly slit the throats of his wife and their 2.5-year-old child before hanging himself.
Ile tulikuwa tumepata habari kwamba yeye na bibi yake kuna mambo ya mauaji, tumepata paka mtoto. Hiyo ni kitu ya kushangaza sana. Sababu sasa hiyo ni familia na tukiangalia ni mtu ambaye huwa anajituma kwa kazi yake.
Residents and mental health stakeholders are now calling for intensified mental health awareness campaigns following the rise in similar incidents within communities. They note that the concerns come during the month of June, which has been set aside to promote men's mental health awareness.
Tunajua kuna mashida mingi watu wanapitia, lakini kulingana na kwenye tuko, hii ni mwezi ya mental health. Tungetaka sana watu wakae chini, tukue tuna forum ya mahali watu wanaongea, wanasikizana na wanaelezea mashida zao.
Mike Chalo, TV47.
President William Ruto has signed 3 memoranda that cover education, digitization and environmental cooperation in Finland. The visit marks an important milestone in the bilateral relations between the two countries. Ruto says the partnership will go a long way. The head of state is currently in Finland for a 2-day state visit.
Kenya and Finland have signed 3 agreements aimed at strengthening cooperation in digital development, education and climate action, following talks between President William Ruto and Finland President Alexander Stubb during a 2-day state visit in Helsinki. The agreements cover digital cooperation to support Kenya's ambition of becoming a leading digital economy in Africa, reforms in education and technical training through Finland's globally recognized system, and collaboration on circular economy, bioeconomy and climate change. Both leaders say the partnerships are expected to go beyond diplomacy and strengthen long-term economic and development ties.
Agreements and commitments are instruments of action that reflect our shared determination to deepen collaboration, expand opportunity, and deliver tangible benefits to our people. We are fully committed to ensuring their effective implementation.
The great potential in partnering with Kenya, the gateway to East Africa. So thank you, William, for this important visit. I'm delighted that we will continue our discussions at the Kultaranta talks.
During the visit, President Ruto also called for reforms to the international financial system and greater inclusion of developing countries in global decision-making structures.
That going forward, we need a much more forward-looking relationship with our friends and with partners. A forward-looking relationship that takes into account what Africa has to offer.
The state visit is being viewed as a major diplomatic push to deepen Kenya's international partnerships and attract investment. Kenya and Finland have remained long-standing diplomatic relations over the years. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Thank you, Paul Kirobi, for that story. Now, a 2-day state visit by the President of the 80th United Nations General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, to Kenya has renewed calls for Africa's fair representation at the UN Security Council. President William Ruto is among African heads of state who have faulted the lack of a permanent seat at the security organ, further demanding the immediate restructuring of the council. Stanley Nyaringita has the details.
Africa's underrepresentation at the United Nations Security Council is an injustice. This is according to the President of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, during a 2nd-day visit to Kenya.
It was extremely important over the last decades, the strong call from Africa, but not only from Africa, from other continents as well, to overcome this injustice with regard to representation within the Security Council, but also in other institutions.
Annalena's remarks come amid heightened calls by African heads of state to reform the structure of the Security Council and increase the continent's representation. In his visit to Norway, President William Ruto Tuesday highlighted that despite conflicts in Africa, the continent's representation in critical decisions concerning its security and future is minimal. This comes on the backdrop of a fresh Security Council election held last week, where Zimbabwe was elected unopposed by the United Nations General Assembly as a non-permanent member to replace Somalia from 2027 to 2028. Other 4 countries elected were Austria, Kyrgyzstan, Portugal, Trinidad and Tobago. However, Zimbabwe's election falls short of Africa's demand through the Ezulwini consensus for at least 2 permanent seats with full veto power and no second-class membership.
There are more urgent questions around the reform of the Security Council, for example, with regard to the veto and the misuse of veto with regard to peace and security. And as these questions are interconnected, it is not so easy to take these reform steps, but the need to see the reform is obviously a strong call also for member states in the Pact for the Future, and this is why also under my presidency in the ADS session we are trying to go a step further in this regard.
This even as Kenya has maintained its commitment to global peace contribution. This according to Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki, who was referencing the recently concluded UN-backed multinational security support MMS mission to Haiti, led by Kenya.
Kenya leverages this experience to strongly advocate for predictable, structured, and mandatory financing mechanisms for global peace missions and urges the international community to adopt equitable burden sharing framework.
As Somalia continues to represent Africa in global security decisions till the end of 2026, attention now shifts to the Security Council on whether it will heed to the continent's call for fair representation to directly influence peace and security. Stanley Nyeringita, TV47.
In other news, students have been challenged to reject corruption, dishonesty and academic fraud and instead embrace integrity as a foundation for national transformation. Speaking during the launch of the Ethics and Integrity Club at Mount Kenya University, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chairperson Dr. David Oginde challenged students to take a firm stand against corruption, warning that dishonesty continues to erode the country's moral and economic fabric. The launch, themed Rebuilding Trust Through Ethical Leadership, brought together leaders from the anti-corruption sector, academia and government who urged young people to become champions of ethical conduct in society.
Stand up against corruption. Corruption may promise quick rewards, but it destroys nation. It is sad, but recent surveys reveal that many young people do not see harm in dishonest shortcuts like tax evasion, corruption, fake certificates. We are seeing an upsurge in plagiarism among university students.
The expected outcomes from the ongoing SEC Cliff MKU collaborative activities include, among others, increased awareness, commitment, and institutional collaboration on ethics and integrity initiatives, as well as student-led activities and university-led policy discussions.
Teach you, with all due respect and humility, that may we forge ahead while we hold dear values and ethos that are able to transform the country as we move. And to be able to have us approach change in a manner that it may not be disastrous to us, it will be important if we can consider our ability to change our thinking, to change our approach, to approach things differently, and like I said, to see the cup as half full, not as half empty.
Kenya has today joined the world in marking the International Day for Dialogue Among Civilizations. Adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in June 2024, the day aims to highlight cultural diversity, eliminate prejudice, and promote mutual understanding through open dialogue. Ambassador Ida Odinga, permanent representative of Kenya to the UN office in Nairobi and UNEP, has highlighted the role of governments in promoting global peace.
On this second International Day for Dialogue Among Civilization, we recognize the power of open communication to solve even the most intractable global challenges. When we listen, talk, and connect, we replace confrontation with cooperation.
It is my sincere hope that today's commemoration solemnly reminds us of the inherent value of life and therefore the importance of dialogue and unity for the benefit of all mankind today and for the generation to come.
All countries, regardless of size, strength, and wealth, are entitled to independently choose their own development paths and social systems, and should participate equally in international affairs, engage equally in decision-making, and benefit equally from development outcomes.
It's time for business news. The Central Bank of Kenya has retained the central bank rate at 8.75% despite inflation rising to 6.7% in May 2026 from 5.6% in April, largely driven by higher global energy prices linked to the Middle East conflict. The Monetary Policy Committee said the current policy stance remains appropriate to keep inflation expectations anchored and support exchange rate stability. CBK projects economic growth of 4.9% in 2026 and will continue monitoring inflationary pressures and global developments.
Tighten or even ease monetary policy is based on the data that we receive during the Monetary Policy Committee team. So it's very difficult to say at this stage what will happen. We'll have to wait and see developments. We have to wait and see what happens with food prices. The surveys, certainly from the agricultural sector survey, suggest that food inflation may decelerate. It's also maybe the case that these hostilities cease very quickly. So I think at this point it's difficult to say. We are keeping an eye on developments, certainly with regard to the oil prices, but also in regard to the second round effects. And we'll wait to see by the next time we meet what has happened to inflation. And it's on the basis of that that we will take action in the next meeting of the MPC.
President William Ruto has urged Norwegian investors to expand their presence in Kenya, citing the country's youthful workforce, strategic location, and growing economy. Speaking at the Norway-Kenya Business Forum in Oslo, he said bilateral trade, valued at $54 million in 2025, could grow to $500 million by 2030. During the visit, Norwegian shipping firms committed to hiring 120 Kenyan seafarers this year and 1,000 more by 2030, boosting opportunities in the blue economy sector.
Africa is also a big opportunity. You know, we have the world's largest natural resource reserves. We have the largest tracts of arable land. We have the largest reserves of renewable energy. We have a young, growing population that is both a workforce and also a market. And therefore, the sooner we work together towards unlocking the potential of Africa by making sure that we provide an environment that is not, you know, forged or look like it is forged against Africa, because the challenge we have today, and this is part of the conversation we had at the Africa Forward Summit this month, with France and Africa is that we need a paradigm shift in the way Africa is viewed.
The government has expanded its digital literacy program to equip learners with technology skills that align with evolving industry demands and help bridge the gap between education and the labor market. The initiative will see more schools receive digital devices and learning resources, enhancing access to technology-driven education. Officials said the program is designed to prepare students for future jobs, strengthen digital competencies, and reduce the mismatch between workforce skills and employer requirements in Kenya's growing digital economy.
ICT Authority is implementing the digital literacy program, which will keep 10,382 schools with 10,382 teachers' laptops and interactive smartboards under Phase 1. These initiatives represent one of the largest investments in the digital learning infrastructure in our nation's history.
Today are the innovators, professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who will shape Kenya's future. Our collective responsibility is therefore to ensure that this investment translates into improved learning experiences, stronger digital skills, and greater opportunities for learners in every part of the country. We must also ensure that schools are adequately supported to utilize these technologies effectively and responsibly.
TV47 Sports, brought to you by Mozart. Usicheze chini. Mozart inasupport talent kutoka mtaani hadi viwanjani. Wachezaji na community pia lazima wa hydrate. Maji safi ni game changer mtaani. Usicheze chini. Mozart.
We're now on the lighter side of the bulletin. Now, Kenya national women's football team Harambee Starlets has returned to the country after securing a third-place finish at the Four Nations tournament held in Zambia. The Starlets concluded their campaign on a high note, ending the tournament with an impressive 6-0 victory over Lesotho in the third-place playoff match. The competition provided valuable match practice as the team continues preparations for the upcoming 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, which will be staged in Morocco.
So twendeni ile side nyingine ziko the other side. Nini tatu kula box ile side nyingine ziko pale.
It's time for the Golden Cup, the Mozart Bed Cup. Kutoka grassroots hadi continentals. Mozart Cup, hakuna favorites. Giants can always be slain. Another chance to chase victory. A chance to write history. Mozart Bed Cup, usicheze chini.
Miami na flow kama maji juu ni tamu kama sali. Ni juicy. Are you bored? Kuna vitu zinakuudhi, usijali my bro, hebu kama nataka juicy juni.
The Brazil national football team will open their FIFA World Cup campaign against Morocco.
8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Nikikunywa maji.
Oh my God. You left me.
Nitumie ni live.
Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? High five? Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The
cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tamulini kero umeka kwa beauty product.
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
You won't entertain divas. No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing.
Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
Structure. Mozart.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign interpreter is Catherine Simaloy. As usual, have yourself a blessed night.